This is our Ford Transit Custom that we've had for a good few years now. I know, a little bit battered and bruised from some wars it's been in with lampposts and trees. It's been an absolute asset to us. Now the PCP agreement's up on it in the next couple of months and I've got a decision to make. The three options I've got is I refinance our van after its PCP and keep it, I chop it in and go for the brand new Ford Transit Custom, or I go for the wildcard option, which a lot of business owners will be considering right now, which is the fully electric e-Transit Custom. But I'm fortunate enough that I've got all three of these vans to try out this week to help me make that decision. And I'm going to kick things off with our old favourite, our current Transit.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
Just like an old favourite hoodie, I'm in familiar territory here. This van we've had for 3 years now, 3 years this January. I first bought this van when our previous van, a Berlingo or Dispatch, Citroen Dispatch, decided to snap its cam belt on the M6 and left me stranded 2 weeks before Christmas at the side of the M6 motorway. There's been a few niggly issues with things like the screen and that deciding it doesn't want to do Apple CarPlay when you're in a city centre and shutting down when you don't know whether to turn left or right. And a warning from a Ford specialist mechanic about the cam belt in this, which runs through its own oil and has a tendency to eat itself and then basically destroy the engine in the process. So with having a cam belt go on a previous van, I decided to get it done just over 12 months ago at the cost of about £1,000. The easiest option within all three of these is just to refinance this at the end of the PCP agreement in which it's still in. We're not a company that makes millions, so just buying it outright at the end of its PCP probably isn't going to be an option. And I don't know if it makes financial sense anymore to tie all your capital up in a vehicle. But car manufacturers and the government are all shoving us in the same direction, which is towards more electric or renewable type energy for our vehicles, which means there's great tax breaks on the new electric Transit Custom. I specifically chose the Ford Transit because of what it was. It's been the obvious choice for a white van man since day dot, since it was released probably back in the 60s or 70s. And as vans have evolved, they've become more and more like usable car vehicles as opposed to a van that's rattly, noisy, not very comfortable and not great on the motorway. There's different trim levels to each of the Ford Transits you can buy. We chose a Limited because it gives us the most amount of optional extras for a decent amount of price point. Now, there's a full lineup of Ford Transits that you can go for in terms of trim level. A couple of special editions thrown in there as well, like the MSRT. For tradesmen's rogs come to your house in an MSRT vehicle, I'm just not sure what it says about the tradesman. They might as well just go plastering in a Range Rover at that point. We went for the Limited because it gives us a great amount of spec. So we've got heated seat, DAB radio, Apple CarPlay, this nice touchscreen that's in front of us, folding mirrors, heated windscreen. But the trim on the other two vans is slightly better than that. So both of those two get LED headlights, the electric gets LED rear tail lights, the touchscreens are bigger in the other two vans. And as I mentioned previously, the electric comes in an automatic gearbox only, even though it's probably not got a gearbox because it's electric, but we'll not get into that. When it comes to this van, it's all pretty standard bacon and eggs stuff. You've got a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel there and a manual gearbox here. I think, but I'm not completely certain, that the throttle response in this is slightly better than the one of the newer shape Transit Custom. That one just feels a bit sluggish until you get into the turbo, whereas this, I don't know, just feels a bit punchier. To me, driving this van is like wearing an old pair of shoes. Dead comfortable, I know what I'm in for. So let's jump into the newer shape Transit Custom and see if that can convince me to stick with diesel. This new shape Transit Custom has been kindly lent to us by the guys at River Technologies. And he's actually the awkward child in this lineup, as it probably won't cost us any more to insure, fuel, tax, or run this van in comparison to our previous shape Transit. But let's jump inside and see how it is on the road. Out on the road, this van doesn't really feel much different to ours. The gear shifts are a little bit tighter, the steering's a bit nicer, but in comparison to a van that's done 70,000 miles and one that's done 15,000 miles, of course it's going to feel a bit newer and nicer. One thing that is a bit weird to get used to is this steering wheel. It's not quite flat at the top, but it's got a flat bottom. It's almost a sporty style steering wheel, but it's a square, more than it is round. Now, if we're talking about looks, on the external, this is the van that I prefer in comparison to our current van. But internally, I think our van is better. There's a lot of cheap plastic type materials used here, which are obviously hard wearing and quite rugged, but I think ours just feels a bit more solid. As far as engines go, I believe this is exactly the same engine that's in our previous generation model. It's a 4-cylinder, 2-litre turbo diesel unit mounted to or mated to a manual transmission. As I've said previously, vans have come a hell of a long way. You jump in this and it's just like driving a car. It's smooth and relaxed. You can hear some of that chug from the diesel engine you've got up front, but it doesn't really matter. At least it's not the old days of the Transit where the gear sticks up here and it's rattling about when you're at traffic lights. The one thing this van does have, which I wish ours did, is a reverse camera. The amount of times that we've had a bit of a near miss on reversing, or I've even clipped a tree or a post in our van because you just can't see what's directly behind it. Maybe it's my bad driving. It would have all gone away that if we'd have just had a reverse camera. The only thing that's doing my absolute nutting with this van so far is it's got some sort of speed sign detection camera, or it just knows the speed limit of the road you're on. And each time you change into a different speed limit zone, it'll remind you on the dash, and there's an icon there to tell me. But if you breach the speed limit just ever so slightly, you get a... Now, there's got to be a way to turn that off, so while I figure that out, let me tell you a little bit more about the guys at River and what they do. River are a managed telecoms provider based out of exactly the same office that we're in. Their expert team are used to dealing with connectivity, VoIP, business mobile, or Wi-Fi solutions tailored towards your business. Vehicle. So even if you have a team of 2, 5, or 500 in a call centre, max idle key. River is geared up to help your business stay connected wherever you are. I'll leave a link to their website in the description of this video, and thanks again for lending us your van. Driver assistance. Speed warning. Speed warning. This setting will turn off for this trip only. The next time you start the vehicle, the setting will turn... so you can't even have it off permanently. It will just turn on each time the car turns on. Now that that's off, let's hit the road and continue. I've done a bit of town driving, I've done a bit of B-road bashing, and now it's time to just jump on the motorway, a couple of miles on there, and let's see what the van's like. Accelerating up the slick road, it actually picks its feet up pretty well. Although it's taking forever to get up to 70. As a self-employed tradesperson or somebody who operates out of a van, a motorway is going to be a necessity for getting anywhere. And although this van isn't fully laden right now with all of our equipment and ladders, it's quite enough, it's comfortable, I've got my heated seat on, my air conditioning set just right. Ford actually spec an option on these vans where you can have radar cruise control. It's a pretty rare thing to come across on a second-hand van, as I think most businesses who buy or lease these probably don't want to spec them for their employees. But I've used it on other cars and vans, and it's brilliant. All in all, the new Transit Custom has been a great van to drive. Not too dissimilar from the van that we've already got, and a bit of a safe bet when it comes to changing our van for a newer model. But the one question that everybody wants the answer to is, can you change your fleet vehicle over to electric? And what's it like living with one as a tradesperson when you're fully loaded with all your tools and all your gear? Well, for the next couple of days, I'm going to find out. I need to live with charging it, putting all my gear in it, and getting to my jobs. Is range anxiety going to be a problem? I already know it won't do anywhere near as amount of miles as the diesel equivalent, but I'm hoping using the charging network around the Northwest, I can manoeuvre about without too many headaches. But let's find out. Right, sitrep. I'm off to work now. The main issue that I had with the van was that when Ford gave it to me, it had very, very little range in it. So when I got back to the office, we just did a few kind of little jobs in it today. I took it home, had my tea, I've come back out because I need to go to the gym. I had to wait for my phone to charge so that I could get in the van, and then take the van to get charged so that I can go and walk on an indoor treadmill. I'm sure there's something in all that. But the process of actually charging wasn't too taxing. I downloaded an app called Zappy. I'll put it on screen now. That told me the chargers that are in my area and told me what apps to download for the chargers in my area, which was good. Then when I did download the Blink app, or Blink, I'll put it on the screen, I found that it said there was no chargers in my area, which was weird. Anyway, I headed across to where I knew there was chargers because I drove past them every day on my way into the gym. The supercharger behind me was actually broken. That's not working at all. That's the really, really fast charger that's got its own cable with it. But the ones where you bring your own cable to and plug in were working. And the process was actually quite simple. You just literally type the code off the top of the machine into the app. Even though it said there was no chargers here, as soon as I did that, it recognised there was a charger. And then it's just a case of pressing go in the app and it says it's charging. I'm going to take its word for it because at the moment the van just says it will charge when plugged in and doesn't actually display that it's doing anything at all. But I'm going to go and do some walking at the gym, get some steps in, and then come back and check that the charger has actually charged my van.
1 hour later.
Alrighty then, about 40 minutes-ish has passed and... Oh indeed. What I'd actually managed to do was plug the van into a 7 kilowatt charger, which means that it was charging at about 10 to 15 miles per hour it was plugged in. So in the 40 minutes I was in the gym, I think I got a few miles of range out of it. But not to worry, the day after I collared Jay from River, who owns an EV, and he took me up to one of the superchargers at a Euro garage and made sure that we had at least 95% ready for the next day when I was hitting the road. Welcome back. Now in your world, about a second or two has passed, but in my world there's been about 12 or so hours have gone by, and in that time I needed to use the van to pick up the kids from school. I went to the gym last night and I flitted about doing a couple of jobs. So the 140 miles that we had yesterday is now actually only 81 miles. About 7 o'clock last night we had about 80%. I think when I came back from the gym last night about 8 o'clock-ish, there was about 80% battery left in the van, and I was like, okay, I think that's cool. I think I can do with that. Now jumping on the motorway, going over to Blackburn, which was about a 10-minute drive for me this morning, has absolutely zapped some of the resources. I mean, it was cold this morning as well. I had to use the van to defrost the windscreen, which obviously eats away at some of the battery. Now my plan is for today to head over to, I've got a survey to do in Bolton. I want to try and grab some gear from the supplier, and I've also got to head over to Liverpool and look at a Wi-Fi for a house. And because I'm out and about today, what I've done is I've loaded the van up with a load of tools that I would normally use. So we've got both sets of our steps, all of our drill bags, my tool bag. We've got all of the bits and pieces that we would normally use to take to an install if we were going fitting cameras. The only thing I've not had a chance to do that I really did want to do is get the roof rack put on so that we can even go off the estimate for the wind resistance on the ladders as we drive up and down the motorway. But unfortunately, with the only roof rack that would fit this was the one from River, and that van's now elsewhere, and it's also a massive job swapping a roof rack off one van onto another. So the task for today is to actually figure out, does this electric custom commercial vehicle work as a workhorse for a business? And if I first start with kind of my thoughts on the vehicle, over the last couple of days I've actually really grown to like this. I'm really trying as it stands to put the automatic transmission into the back of my mind, because I know that if I had an automatic diesel, I'd probably fail. It's a lot easier to drive anyway, you're not constantly changing gear. No, this is a different type of automatic, so it's not the one pedal driving. So what that means is you don't need to use the brake really a great deal. Coming off like this slip mode, for example, I just let off the accelerator and the van uses the regeneration, put it back into the batteries to slow the vehicle down. I don't need to. This technology's been around for ages. The Teslas have done it since day dot. But for a commercial vehicle like this is first kind of, well, this is the second electric vehicle I've ever driven, and the first commercial vehicle I've driven like this that's electric, and I think is a really good feature. It just makes life really easy driving it. I mentioned the same about the diesel, the new shape custom, the diesel one. The steering wheel's a bit of an odd shape, although over the time that it's quite sporty actually, really, in its look. and I've quite grown to like it. Obviously this one's brand spanking new, so it feels all nice and supple and soft. In front of me I've got a digital dashboard, and on that digital dashboard it'll give me information on the battery, it'll give me information on the miles that I've done, it gives me obviously speed. This has got the same speed detection as the other Transit, which is really annoying. And just next to that is a huge, massive touch screen colour display. Now the definition from that screen is brilliant. I really like how the colours all look when you play music, or the album covers show, and the Apple CarPlay works wirelessly as well as wired, which is a great function. So it means as you jump into the van, it instantly straight away connects Apple CarPlay, and I could just make calls or set the sat nav to where I'm going. I really have grown to like this van, but the definitive factor will be just living with a electric vehicle. It's so quiet in here compared to the diesel equivalent. I mean, I know we've not got the roof rack on the roofs, which in my van and River's van both whistle like mad, but it's quiet. I've arrived in Bolton for my survey, and we now have 43% and 59 miles remaining, which is a bit of an issue because it might mean that I'm not going to get to Liverpool and back on 59 miles from here. So it means I'm going to have to find a pretty rapid supercharger on the way so that I can bang some charge in this, maybe grab some dinner while I do that, so that it's not a complete waste of time. But I think this is going to be a bit running theme with these types of EV vans. Anyway, let me get my survey done, and I'll call my client who I'm going to see in Liverpool, check I'm still going there, and then I will check back with you guys when I'm done. You'll have to excuse some of the audio from the previous bit of footage. The microphones decided halfway through today to pack in and stop actually recording to the GoPro, so I lost most of the piece of camera stuff that I'd been doing. But I hit the road and travelled the 36 miles to Liverpool to do the second survey. I made it to Liverpool, and we've got 22% left in the battery with a range of 33 miles remaining. The GoPro died just as I finished doing that little bit there, but I've gone to do the survey, I've come out, so we've got 33 miles. I've got two options to choose from now. I can either risk it and try and get home, bearing in mind that home is about 38 miles and I've got 35 in the tank, which is cutting it fine, or I stop at either a services just off the M6 at Wigan, or I stop at Charnock Richard, which is the Tesla superchargers. So I'm going to risk it for a chocolate biscuit. I'm going to jump on the motorway and see how much we can squeeze out of this on the way home, and hope that it at least gets me to Parbold. If it gets me to Parbold and we've still got a decent amount of range, then I'm tempted to start pushing the boundaries here and see how much further I can get it. But I don't want to be down to like 2 or 3 miles when it's actually running out, because I've actually no way to charge this at the roadside if I do break down, other than calling the AA and having to pay extortionate amounts of money, I bet, for them to come and charge me. But there's no fun without adventure, so let's give it a go. I'm going to hit the road and see how we get on with 35 miles and 38 to my destination. So I set off and settled in for what was one of the most stressful journeys I've been on in a very, very long time. I suppose in a way you can compare it to running your car on absolute fumes and just hoping you make it to the fuel station. But the difference with electric is getting to the charging stations doesn't guarantee that a charger is available or that they're in service. And this just added even more stress. Update for you. Sorry, just finishing a Frosties bar. The sat-nav actually decided to take me the longer route on the M62 and then join the M6 because it's a faster route, because you're flowing traffic, you're driving faster. But actual shorter mileage is to come off a junction before that and cut through here, which means that now I've actually gained on the mileage for the car. We've got 24 on the mileage for the van. Sorry, we've got 24 miles, 15%. On the sat-nav, I've got 15 miles and 16 minutes until I can actually get to my destination. We can get 10 minutes into this journey with 5 minutes remaining. I might even treat myself to a bit of a heated seat, or maybe just demist some of these windows, because right now they're all misted up. But I will plod on as I join the M6 now, and we will see how the next few miles pans out. At this point, I really wasn't enjoying driving this van. I was cold, the windows had started to seam up, and I was getting quite stressed about not making the service station, or there just being no chargers available when I got to the service station. But I plodded on and I finally got there. We made it. You'll have to ignore the square on my head. It's from the head mount that I wear for the GoPro. But we got here with 5% of battery and 8 miles remaining. We're at a 150 kilowatt charger, which means it'll be a rapid charge. This can only take 125. Let's jump out and figure out how this works. Do we want that one? Does that one fit? No. It's that one. That's the one we want. Right, it wants me to tap my card on. And this like a card. Select your connector. Start charge. We have it, it's charging. So it recognises it's connected to a fast charger, and it says that we will be fully charged in just over an hour. But I don't want 90%. I'm going to put a bit in because it's going back tomorrow. So essentially I've just got to sit here and wait now until we get a decent enough amount of charge that I can stop it charging and pull away. I don't even know what the pence per kilowatt is currently here, but I can't imagine it's cheap. Some of the ones in Liverpool were like up to 87p per kilowatt, which are really expensive. I think you could run a V8 probably cheaper than you could an electric vehicle if that's how you were charging them constantly. Let's get some charging, get back to the office, and then we can come up with our verdict on whether we think this is a good idea for commercial vehicles to be electric. I'm now into the next day. It's Thursday, which means it's sadly the last day that the van is with us. It's going back today, which I do feel a little bit sad about, almost like a kid that's had a toy snatched away from him at Christmas, which also means it's time to wrap up and decide what we're actually going to do. Are we going to keep our van, or are we going to swap to electric? Well, let's figure it out. We set out in this video to decide between 3 vans for what we're going to do as a business moving forward, but within that, it gave us a good opportunity to compare electric to diesel and the newer Transit to the older Transit. So working backwards, if we start with the electric Transit, and do I think electric commercial vehicles work? The answer is yes, but there is a but. And the but is that your business has to be set up in a way that works around electric vehicles. So for example, if you were to run a fleet or even just an individual van like we do, to have an electric version of that van, you would have to have a charging station at your business premises. One, because it's miles cheaper than charging at a Eurogarage's supercharger, but 2, because you can't afford for your staff to come in and then have to go and charge an electric vehicle, or get halfway through their working day and have to break away from what they're doing to charge an electric vehicle. Now, I don't have a problem with our staff. All of them are great, and I don't think any of them would intentionally try to deviate away from tasks just to go and sit and charge an electric vehicle. But an organisation larger than ours is going to have that problem where staff are just bunking off. Oh, I've had to charge the electric one, so let's just go and plug it into the slowest charger we can find and bunk off for an hour while we wait for it to put some charge back into the battery. Kind of brings me on to the second point, is that you've got to have a business that is flexible enough to adapt to an electric vehicle. So you're not always going to be in a position where you have the ability to just charge it at the office, run it all day and charge it back when it gets back to the office. There is going to be times where you are going to have to charge it outside of those parameters. We've had this van for 3 days, going on for 3 days now. And in that time, I've done nothing but charge the thing. I think for an electric vehicle to work in our industry, where we're flitting out of different jobs every day and each route we take is different, there's got to be more range available to us in an electric vehicle. EVs work for individuals who own a Tesla or a Taycan or a Leaf, because they can just go home and plug them in at home and they don't have to worry because they're an Optibus and they've got 6p a night rate. But I can't expect our engineers to do that if they need to take the van home. We need to always be conscious of the range that the van's got, and I can't run our operations like that. I can't be always conscious of, have we charged the van, have we charged the van, how much range is in the van, have we charged the van? And that's all I was thinking about yesterday when I was driving it. For that reason, I'm going to say that the electric commercial vehicle doesn't work for us. That's not to say it won't work for every industry, because if you're a florist that's got a premises with a charger outside and you only do short runs every single day, you're not doing much motorway miles, and you're just flitting here, there and everywhere in the morning, you can put the van back on charge, great. If you're Royal Mail, we've got the infrastructure to put in 50 different chargers at a depot, and your staff work 9 to 5 or 6:30 in the morning till 5 at night, great. I think it really, really works in that scenario. Even better if you can bolt on more renewable energy in that, so you can have solar on top of your commercial premises, which is charging batteries, which charges your van. It's all a bit of a weird cycle, that. A business like mine that has to be reactive to problems for our IT clients and be able to travel to install CCTV systems, I don't think it works. And for that reason, it's out. Brings me on to the facelift version of the Transit Custom, the one that River has. I wasn't blown away by that van. Now, it's a van at the end of the day, it's not a posh Mercedes, and I get that. I think the inside of it is a little bit basic. The inside of this is a bit basic. Tell by the fact that there are 2 huge screens in here, but everything else is just cheap and plasticky. And although the externals of the van look better in terms of that the LED lighting is nicer, and the high beam assist is a really great function, I don't think I like it enough to pay the extra money to swap out of our van and into theirs. Which leaves us with our van. I think the most logical thing for me to do is to keep the current van that we've got and refinance it, or go and find that version of van again, but with an automatic gearbox, a reverse camera, and if I can, the sought after option, which is the radar cruise control. So on the motorway, basically set it at a distance from a car in front, and away we go, but with a diesel engine. So there we have it. I'll knock off the video where I started it Monday morning at Evans House Short, Ford dealer in Preston. Thank you so much to James for lending us the vehicle. Thank you to River for lending us their vehicle. I hope you've enjoyed this content. It's been a little bit something different on the channel. I've really enjoyed making it, although quite stressful in parts. But drop a comment below if you want to see more of this types of content where I review stuff that we buy as a business, so vehicles, tools, things like that. And I look forward to catching you all next time. Bye!